Hello families, welcome to Tales by Felix, where every story opens the door to a new world. Don't forget to subscribe, it would really mean the world to us. Now, let's begin. The morning sun spilled over the city like liquid gold, painting everything in a warm glow. For many, it was just another Saturday, but for Amara, today was meant to be the beginning of forever. Her hotel suite was buzzing with activity. Hairstylists, makeup artists, bridesmaids fussing with dresses, and the sound of laughter mixed with excitement. The white lace gown hung gracefully on the wardrobe, shimmering under the lights. "Babe, you look like a queen already," her best friend Kemi whispered as Amara sat patiently while her hair was styled into a neat updo. Amara smiled, though her stomach fluttered with nerves. She glanced at her reflection in the mirror. Her almond-shaped eyes sparkled with anticipation, her lips curved into a soft smile. Everything was perfect. Or so she thought. Downstairs at the wedding venue, guests were already gathering. The hall was decorated in rich gold and ivory, roses lined the aisle, and a string quartet played softly. It was the kind of wedding that looked like a scene out of a luxury magazine. The groom, Chaik, arrived in a sleek tuxedo, his groomsmen flanking him like bodyguards. He looked every bit the successful businessman he was known to be. People whispered about how lucky Amara was to have found him after her heartbreaks. "Today, nothing can go wrong," Amara whispered to herself, unaware that destiny had other plans. As the ushers directed guests to their seats, the sound of murmurs rose from the back of the hall. Heads turned. A woman had just walked in. She wasn't dressed for a wedding, no bright colors, no sequins, no fascinator perched on her head. Instead, she wore a simple navy blue gown, her hair pulled back in a bun. She clutched a brown leather folder against her chest like a shield. Her heels clicked sharply against the marble floor as she made her way down the aisle, her eyes fixed on the groom. The chatter grew louder. "Who is she?" one guest whispered. "Looks like trouble," another murmured. Chaik, standing near the altar, froze. His confident smile faltered, his jaw tightened. He tried to mask it quickly, but the woman's presence had already unsettled him. "Chaik," the best man muttered, nudging him. "Do you know her?" The groom didn't answer. His eyes darted nervously. Meanwhile, the bride was still upstairs, adjusting her veil, unaware of the storm brewing below. The woman stopped midway down the aisle. Her voice rang out, firm and clear. "This wedding cannot continue." The hall went dead silent. All eyes turned toward her. Chaik's heart pounded in his chest. His palms grew clammy. He hadn't expected her. Not today, not like this. "What the hell are you doing here?" he hissed under his breath, stepping slightly forward, but not too far from the altar. He didn't want to draw more attention. But it was too late. Every guest in the hall had their eyes on them. The woman, Ngozi, lifted her chin defiantly. Her voice didn't shake. "I'm here to stop a mistake. A mistake that will ruin this woman's life." The guests gasped. Ushers shifted uncomfortably, unsure whether to escort her out or let her speak. "Security, get her out of here," Chaik barked, trying to maintain control. But there was panic in his voice. Ngozi didn't budge. Instead, she held the brown folder higher, her voice louder. "I have documents. Proof. The bride deserves to know the truth before she marries you." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd like a wave. Someone whispered, "Documents? What truth?" At that moment, Amara entered the hall, escorted by her father. She was radiant in her gown, her veil flowing like a river of lace. But as soon as she noticed the tension, the woman standing boldly with a folder in hand, the groom's pale face, her steps faltered. "Daddy," she whispered, confused. "What's happening?" Her father frowned. "I don't know, but we'll find out." All eyes shifted from the bride to the mysterious woman. The hall had transformed from a wedding celebration into a stage for revelation. The air felt heavy, charged with suspense. Amara's steps slowed as she reached the front. She looked at Chaik, her groom, her supposed happily ever after. "Chaik, who is this woman?" Chaik swallowed hard, his lips twitching. "Nobody. She's nobody. Don't listen to her. She just wants to ruin our day." "Nobody." Ngozi shot back, her voice slicing through the silence. "You call the woman who shared your bed for 7 years, the mother of your child, nobody?" The hall erupted. People gasped. Some stood to get a clearer view. Amara's father's face darkened. Mother of your child? Chaik, what is she talking about? Amara's hands trembled as she turned to Chaik. Her voice cracked. Is this true? Chaik shook his head violently. No. She's lying. She's bitter. She's trying to destroy us. But Ngozi was already moving forward. She opened the folder and pulled out neatly arranged papers. She lifted them high for everyone to see. These are marriage certificates, bank statements, and custody documents. He is still legally married to me. This wedding is a fraud. The crowd exploded in disbelief. Some covered their mouths. Others began murmuring in outrage. Still married, someone whispered. Fraud, another gasped. Amara's knees weakened. She staggered slightly, clutching her father's arm. No, she whispered. This can't be real. Her veil felt heavy now, like a burden instead of a crown. Her heart hammered in her chest, each beat echoing louder than the string quartet that had long stopped playing. She reached for the papers Ngozi held out. With trembling fingers, she flipped through them, her vision blurring from tears. Her voice quivered as she read aloud, Marriage certificate, signed, 5 years ago. Ngozi and Chaik. Her hands shook violently. The next page revealed a child's birth certificate, Chaik listed as the father. Tears welled in Amara's eyes. She turned to Chaik, her voice breaking. You told me you were divorced. You told me you had no children. You looked me in the eyes and swore. Amara, please, Chaik begged, his voice cracking as he reached for her hand. Listen to me. It's not what it looks like. I was going to explain everything after the wedding. After the wedding? Her voice rose, echoing across the hall. You were going to trap me in a marriage built on lies. Ngozi stepped closer, her eyes fierce but glistening with unshed tears. He lied to me. He abandoned me and our child. And now he wants to ruin you too. I couldn't let that happen. The hall was in chaos, guests whispering, phones recording, eyes darting between the bride, the groom, and the ex-wife. Amara's tears spilled freely now, blurring the words on the documents, but she no longer needed clarity. The truth was written in her breaking heart. Chaik, she whispered, her voice heavy with betrayal. How could you? The groom stood there, cornered, his lies collapsing around him. And the wedding that was meant to be a dream had just turned into a nightmare. The room spun. Amara clutched the pew for support as her father steadied her. The documents trembled in her hands, and though the words blurred through her tears, their weight was undeniable. You're still married, she whispered, almost to herself. Her voice cracked. Still married to her. Ngozi's voice cut like a blade through the thick silence. Legally, yes. You are his mistress, not his wife. Gasps rippled across the guests like wildfire. Some covered their mouths. Others glared at Chaik, disgust carved into their faces. Chaik lunged forward, his voice desperate. No, no. Amara, please don't listen. I filed for divorce. There were delays, technicalities. I wanted to protect you from the mess. Protect me. Amara snapped, her voice rising for the first time. She threw the papers at his chest. By lying to me about your entire life. The flutter of the papers as they scattered across the floor was the only sound before the murmurs began again. A groomsman bent to pick them up, his face twisted in disbelief as he read what was written. Ngozi stepped closer, her chin high. For 7 years I was his wife. I carried his child. He promised me forever. And when money and status came, he decided we were baggage. Amara's chest heaved. The veil she once wore proudly now felt suffocating. Her dream wedding had collapsed into a public trial. Chaik's carefully crafted composure shattered. His voice shook, betraying the panic clawing at his throat. Amara, you have to believe me. She's exaggerating. I've been taking care of her. I send money. She's bitter, jealous, and wants to ruin this day. Ngozi laughed bitterly. Money? You call the few crumpled bills you threw my way money? You abandoned us while you built an empire on lies. The hall fell silent again, waiting for his rebuttal. Chaik looked around, scanning the faces, friends, business partners, socialites, all of them watching as his world unraveled. "You don't understand," he muttered. "She's twisting the story." Amara's father cut him off, his voice thunderous. "Enough!" The weight of authority in the older man's voice silenced even the whispers. He stepped forward, glaring at Chaik. "My daughter deserves the truth. And so does everyone here. If you lied about your marriage, what else have you been hiding?" Chaik's lips parted, but no words came out. He stood frozen, like a man stripped naked before a crowd. And then Gozi pulled out another envelope. "This," Gozi said, her voice steady as she held the new envelope high, "is what he didn't want you to see." She opened it slowly, deliberately, and drew out more papers. The faint shuffle of pages echoed across the hall. "These are bank statements," she continued. "Accounts under fake names. Offshore transfers. He has been funneling money away for years." She spread the documents across the altar, each page detailing transactions in bold ink. Amara's father snatched one up, scanning quickly. His eyes widened. "These are millions. Millions." He turned on Chaik. "You've been stealing." "From who?" The crowd erupted again, voices rising in anger and disbelief. Chaik raised his hands, pleading. "It's business strategy. Diversification. Every businessman moves money around. It's legal. Legal." Gozi spat. "Is it legal to hide money from the woman you're marrying? Is it legal to launder funds through shell companies registered in another country?" Chaik's face burned. Sweat trickled down his temple. The whispers now had teeth. "Fraudster. Conman. All those flashy cars." Amara shook her head in horror. "So not only are you married, not only do you have a child, but you are a thief too?" "No," Chaik cried, stepping toward her, but Amara recoiled, her eyes sharp with disgust. "Stay away from me." The words hit harder than a slap. For the first time, Chaik's mask slipped completely. His eyes darkened, rage flickering where charm once lived. Chief Ade Banjo, Amara's father, straightened his agbada, his voice booming with authority that filled the hall. "Chaik," he said coldly, "you stood before me and swore you would honor my daughter. You assured me your past was clean. You convinced me to bless this union. And yet," he slammed the papers onto the table, "you come into my family with deceit." Chaik stammered. "Sir, please, let me explain." "There is nothing to explain." Chief Ade Banjo roared. "You deceived us. You would have bound my daughter to you in lies. Do you know what that makes you? A coward." The crowd gasped. Some guests nodded in agreement. Others shifted uncomfortably, torn between pity for the bride and disgust at the groom. Chaik's face hardened. His desperation gave way to defiance. "With all due respect, Chief, this is between me and Amara. You have no right." "No right?" the chief thundered, his voice shaking the room. "As her father, I have every right. I will not watch her life be destroyed by a fraud." The hall erupted in applause. Guests clapped, some even stood in solidarity. The tide had turned, and Chaik was drowning in it. But Ngozi wasn't finished. Her voice was quieter this time, but it sliced deeper than ever. "There's something else," she said, pulling one last document from the folder. Her hands trembled, not with fear, but with the weight of what she was about to reveal. "This," she held it up, "is a custody order. For our son." The room fell silent again. Even the murmurs died instantly. Amara blinked, stunned. "Your son?" Ngozi's eyes softened, just for a moment. "Yes, our son. He left him. He left us. He has never paid proper support, never showed up at birthdays, never even called. But he had the audacity to tell you he wanted a family with you." She turned to the crowd, her voice breaking with raw emotion. "He wanted to erase us. Erase his child. While he built a new life here, parading as the perfect man." The guests' silence turned into an uproar. Women shook their heads in disgust. Men muttered curses under their breath. A few guests pulled out their phones, recording everything, the scandal too hot not to share. Amara's heart cracked. Her legs nearly buckled. A child? He had hidden a child? She looked at him with tears streaming freely. Chaik, how dare you? How dare you bring me here, in front of God and everyone I love, knowing you abandoned your own flesh and blood? Chaik stepped forward, but his words faltered. His hands reached out, then dropped helplessly. I was going to make it right. I swear. I just needed more time. Ngozi shook her head bitterly. You've had years. And with that, she handed the custody papers to Amara, sealing the coffin of Chaik's carefully constructed lies. The once glorious groom now stood exposed, a husband, a liar, a thief, and a father who abandoned his child. And the wedding that was meant to unite families had instead torn apart an illusion. The once elegant hall now buzzed with disorder. Guests murmured, some filming on their phones, others shaking their heads. The weight of Ngozi's revelations hung thick in the air. Chaik's breathing grew heavy, his chest rising and falling like a cornered animal. His slick composure, the charm that once captivated, crumbled into raw anger. You think you can humiliate me like this? He roared, pointing a trembling finger at Ngozi. His voice reverberated through the hall. Amara flinched. She had never seen him like this. You walk in here, on my wedding day, waving papers, spouting half-truths? You're bitter, Ngozi. Bitter because I moved on. Ngozi didn't back down. Her voice quivered, but her eyes never left him. Moved on? You call abandoning your son moving on? You call stealing money and lying to this woman moving on? Enough! Chaik lunged forward, trying to snatch the custody papers from her hands. Guests gasped. 2 ushers rushed forward, grabbing his arms and holding him back. Let me go, he barked, thrashing against them. His face twisted with rage. She's lying. All of you, she's poisoning your minds against me. But no one seemed convinced anymore. Amara's father stood tall, his hand protectively on his daughter's shoulder. A real man does not rage when confronted with truth. You expose yourself, Chaik. You are guilty. Chaik's voice broke, raw and guttural. No, I'm not guilty. I built everything with my hands. I earned respect, wealth, status, and none of you will take it from me. But the more he shouted, the smaller he looked. Amara could no longer hold back. Her chest heaved, her tears streamed unchecked, and the weight of betrayal pressed on her shoulders like stone. Her veil slipped from her head, falling onto the floor unnoticed. She looked at Chaik, the man she thought she loved, and realized she was staring at a stranger. Her voice trembled at first, but anger gave it strength. Do you know what you've done to me? Chaik turned to her, his face softening instantly. Amara, please. Don't listen to her. Don't let her destroy us. I love you. Love me, she spat, her voice sharp as glass. You lied to me. You lied about everything. Your marriage. Your child. Your money. You wanted to bind me to a lie. She pulled off her engagement ring and threw it at him. It clinked against the marble floor, the sound louder than thunder in that silence. You don't love me. You only love yourself. The hall erupted with gasps. Some women covered their mouths, tears in their eyes. The bride, once graceful, delicate, now stood fierce, her voice shaking but powerful. You wanted a trophy wife. You wanted my father's name, his wealth, his network. You never wanted me. And I almost fell for it. Chaik fell to his knees, desperation overtaking rage. Amara, don't do this. Please. I swear I was going to fix everything. I was going to tell you after the wedding. Please don't leave me like this. Amara shook her head, her tears blurring her vision. No. You already left me the day you decided to live a lie. We're done. The guests erupted into whispers, the bride's declaration echoing like a gavel strike in a courtroom. The hall was a battlefield now, not of fists, but of words and allegiances. Some guests sided with Amara, clapping and cheering her courage. Yes. Don't marry that liar, someone shouted. Others whispered disapproval. This woman, Ngozi, shouldn't have come here. She could have handled this privately. One older woman shook her head. But if she hadn't, this poor bride would have married a fraud. A group of Chaik's business associates huddled together, their voices hushed but urgent. This will ruin him. His reputation is gone. Phones flashed everywhere. Videos, pictures, live streams. What was meant to be a day of love had become a public scandal. Amara could hear snippets of voices. This is going viral. I can't believe I'm witnessing this live. She's so brave. Look at her strength. Meanwhile, Ngozi stood quietly to the side, her hands still clutching the folder. She looked both vindicated and broken, tears glistening in her eyes. And at the center of it all, Chaik knelt on the floor, his tuxedo crumpled, his pride shattered, his world collapsing. Amid the chaos, a piercing scream cut through the air. Mama! All eyes turned as Chaik's elderly mother, dressed in a flowing wine-colored lace gown, staggered. Her hand clutched her chest, her eyes wide in shock. She crumpled to the floor. Panic erupted. Women rushed forward, fanning her. Someone shouted, "Call an ambulance!" Chaik sprang to his feet, his rage forgotten, his voice trembling. Mama! Mama, stay with me! He knelt beside her, shaking her gently. Please, don't do this now. Please! His sisters wailed, his relatives knelt in prayer, while strangers tried to revive her. The chaos doubled. Half the guests focused on the fainted woman, the other half still buzzing with outrage at the scandal. Amara, her heart soft despite her pain, moved toward the scene but stopped herself. She realized then, even in tragedy, she could no longer be part of his family. The ambulance arrived swiftly, attendants rushing in to carry Chaik's mother out on a stretcher. Chaik followed, his face pale with fear, his earlier arrogance completely gone. The hall was left in stunned silence. When order finally returned, Amara stood tall at the altar. Her veil gone, her ring discarded, her tears dried into strength. She picked up the microphone meant for vows. Her voice, steady and strong, carried across the hall. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. But instead, it became the day truth set me free. The guests leaned in, riveted. I thank Ngozi for her courage, for saving me from a lifetime of lies. I would rather be humiliated today than destroyed tomorrow. The hall erupted in applause. Women especially clapped, cheering her bravery. Some even stood, raising their fists in solidarity. Amara's eyes glistened, but her voice did not waver. I will not walk down the aisle with a liar. I will not share my life with a man who abandons his child and deceives his bride. No more. She turned to Ngozi, who was wiping her tears silently. You are not my enemy. You are my sister in pain. Thank you. The crowd roared in approval. Then, with deliberate calm, Amara took the bouquet from her hands. She walked to the center of the hall, raised it high, and dropped it to the floor. There will be no wedding today. But there will be a celebration. The band, unsure, looked at her. She nodded. Music swelled, loud, triumphant, freeing. Guests stood, clapping, cheering, even dancing. The wedding had transformed into something new, not a union of deceit, but a declaration of freedom, truth, and power. And Amara, the bride who refused to be broken, became the center of it all. The music faded as murmurs spread again, because just when people thought the drama was over, a man in a gray suit stepped forward from the back of the hall. He carried a black briefcase and wore the calm confidence of someone who had been waiting for his cue. "Excuse me," he said firmly, his voice commanding attention. "My name is Detective Bamadil. I was hired by Miss Amara 3 weeks ago to investigate Chaik." Gasps echoed. Amara nodded slowly, her eyes fixed on Chaik. "Yes," she admitted, her voice steady. "Something in me always felt uneasy. His stories never matched. So I needed to know the truth before I married him." Chaik's face drained of color. You hired an investigator?" "Yes," she said coldly. "Because I couldn't gamble my life on hope alone." Detective Bamadil opened his briefcase and pulled out files, photographs, and recordings. "This man," he said, pointing at Chaik, "has not only lied about his marriage and child, but he is also implicated in multiple financial crimes." The crowd erupted in gasps. He continued, "Here are photos of him meeting with known fraud syndicates. Here are documents linking him to offshore laundering. Here are voice recordings of him negotiating bribes." He placed the evidence on the altar for all to see. Chaik staggered back as though struck. No, no. These are lies. You forged this. But the detective's calm tone only made him look more desperate. Everything here has been verified. And this, he said, holding up a warrant, is proof the authorities have been watching you for months. The guests gasped again. Phones shot up in every direction, capturing the downfall in real time. Chaik was exposed, completely and utterly stripped of his mask. The tension snapped when two uniformed police officers entered the hall. Their boots echoed against the marble floor. The crowd parted instinctively, leaving a clear path straight to the disgraced groom. Chaiko Koro, one officer declared, you are under arrest for fraud, money laundering, and falsification of legal documents. Gasps and shouts filled the air. The band stopped playing. Even the children in the hall sensed something monumental was unfolding. No, no, you can't do this here. Chaik shouted, his voice breaking. This is my wedding. You can't humiliate me like this. The officer read him his rights calmly, while the second officer pulled out handcuffs. As they reached for his wrists, Chaik turned desperately to Amara. His voice cracked. Please, Amara. Tell them you love me. Stop this. Amara's face was cold as stone. Her once soft eyes now glistened with steel. I don't know you, she said simply. The words shattered him. He fell to his knees, but the officers yanked him back up, snapping the cuffs around his wrists. The crowd erupted in cheers, claps, and cries of vindication. Some guests jeered, fraudster, liar. Others recorded gleefully, already preparing captions for their viral posts. Chaik's world collapsed in real time. The man who had walked in like a king was dragged out like a criminal, his head bowed, his empire of lies reduced to rubble. When the doors slammed behind Chaik and the officers, silence lingered for a heartbeat. Then Amara stepped forward again, taking back the microphone. Her gown was torn at the hem, her veil gone, her makeup streaked with tears, but she had never looked more powerful. This was supposed to be my wedding, she said, her voice steady, but instead, it became my liberation. The hall listened in rapt attention. I stood here ready to vow forever to a man who lied about everything, his past, his present, even his future. And yet, I am not broken. I am free. Today I choose myself. Applause erupted, louder this time, thunderous. Amara turned to Ngozi, her voice softer. You saved me. And though your pain brought you here, you showed me what true courage looks like. You are not just his ex-wife. You are a woman who refused to stay silent. And for that, I honor you. Ngozi wept silently, nodding. A few women in the audience clapped for her too, recognizing her bravery. Amara's father stepped forward, pride shining in his eyes. My daughter, he said, his voice shaking, today you have shown more strength than I ever imagined. You did not fall. You rose. The crowd erupted again, shouting, cheering, even chanting her name. Amara, who had come to the hall a bride-to-be, now stood as a symbol of empowerment, for every woman who had ever been deceived, for every heart that had been broken. The hall could have dissolved into silence, but Amara wouldn't let it. She refused to let her story end in tears. She raised her hand, silencing the noise. I may not marry today, but we will not let this day be wasted. Let us celebrate, not a union of lies, but the power of truth. The guests erupted in applause. The band, encouraged, struck up a lively tune. Tables once set for a wedding feast now became the setting for an impromptu celebration. Guests clapped, danced, and toasted, not to a couple, but to resilience. Amara's bridesmaids surrounded her, hugging her tightly. Kemi, her best friend, whispered, You turned this disaster into a testimony. I'm so proud of you. Her father raised a glass. To my daughter, the bravest bride who never walked down the aisle. The hall roared in agreement. Even Ngozi was pulled into the celebration. Some women hugged her, others encouraged her, saying, You did the right thing. It was no longer a wedding. It was a reimagined ceremony, one of freedom, of truth, of solidarity among women who refused to be broken. By evening, videos of the dramatic wedding had already flooded social media. Clips of Ngozi's interruption, Amara's fiery speech, and Chaik's arrest trended worldwide. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag wedding scandal. Hashtag bride said no. Hashtag truth before vows. Hashtag power of Amara. Millions watched in disbelief as the story unfolded online. Some cried, some cheered, others debated, but no one could look away. Amara sat quietly in her hotel suite that night, no longer in her gown, but wrapped in a robe. Her phone buzzed endlessly with messages of support from strangers across the globe. You're an inspiration. You saved yourself and so many others. This story gave me strength to leave my toxic relationship. She smiled faintly, realizing that her pain had birthed a movement. As for Ngozi, she finally walked home with her head high, no longer just the ex-wife, but a woman who had stood her ground. And Chaik. He sat in a holding cell, his empire gone, his name in shreds, his arrogance replaced with silence. The wedding that was supposed to bind two families had instead changed countless lives. It became more than a scandal. It became a story of betrayal, courage, and rebirth. A story that the world would never forget. And at its center stood Amara, the bride who refused to be broken. The end.